Hello.
I'm the encoder.
I can draw a little bit, but I have much to say. I'm not here to incite hateful speech or judge anybody based on shallow criteria. Fair commentary is my aim and constructive criticism my target. I, like other people, began as a viewer of Foodie Beauty. I started watching her in 2018 through a YouTube suggestion. I took her as a quirky, very individual character and accepted her racy life stories as part of her uniqueness. I liked her right up until Nader entered her world. I then saw a side of her that came across as callous, dismissive, arrogant, and sometimes downright cruel.
I'm not unrealistic.
I will never expect perfection. The way she spoke about animals she had run over with her car, refusing them help or to take responsibility and go back to assess their condition. The way she refused to stay home, even for one night, to offer support to her friend and housemate Pete's, who had just lost his cat Timbit. And the way she snapped at audience in a very vicious way, using harsh, mean words, left me stunned. And not in a good way. Foodie started choosing the men in her life over her lifelong friends, family, and even her own pets, who were helpless to her will. She was an entirely different woman to the one I had started to watch some months ago, appearing in videos beside herself when she couldn't find Sam during a temporary stay at a hotel, while her home was being fumigated. Now it didn't matter anymore how dire circumstances around her concerning loved ones were. She managed to appear on stream in elevated spirits, excited to be going over to her lover's place for the night, instead of prioritizing with family in need. I started dismissing my shock as Chantal being under the influence of substances. Then the words of a domestic violence authority who had come and spoken to us in high school as part of an awareness initiative returned to my memory. Substances don't fabricate a new character. They only enhance one's traits and give a perpetrator an excuse to justify his or her abusive behavior. So, Foodie, I'm basing my commentary on your behavior and words, not on your appearance. I don't like it when people mock someone for their physical aspect. We are all with flaws. To corner a person for their physical attributes is bullying and has no substance. It is unethical. I would go as far as saying it's evil. Just because someone else is doing it, it doesn't give the green light for us to repeat the behavior. I won't lie. I have given people their own medicine back to them at times, but it still doesn't make it right. If I see somebody making fun of a person for their appearance, I may also address the looks of the speaker. I've got my limitations. I too get angry. The point is to control your anger at all times. I too need to learn better strategies at dealing with becoming upset with unfair attitudes. You, Chantal, take lack of control to a whole new level. Your explosive reaction is something you must work on. The people you abuse are people you need. People you ask to fund your exuberant expenses. I've never heard of any other YouTuber asking viewers for $10,000. You're right in saying some viewers take things too far and stalk YouTubers. That's unhealthy, frightening behavior. Mental illness is more common than we realize. Some members of the audience may exaggerate and misunderstand, or place every comment you make under a microscope. That's also going too far. Context is important. We must not lose our head in the midst of emotion, or of a narrative we're trying to prove. How can someone be wrong in their infuriation when you adopt an animal, then dump him within days at a shelter, though? That's not a minor detail. That's not misconstruing. That's wickedness. How is detaching from your two pets whom you lived with for 15 years for a strange man who propositioned you or whatever over the internet possible? I'll tell you what motivated you. The validation and supply you receive from a male human is bigger in your evaluation than the love you receive from a pet or child. A man appeals to your vanity. So as the narcissist that you seem to be, you discard the little soul who showered you with love, care and attention all her life, like an empty wrapper whose contents you consumed. You say that you are currently asexual, but I am willing to bet my credibility in predicting that you will repeat your old patterns. That is, providing you legitimately return to live in Canada, you will adopt a cat or two, and drag Pete's to share accommodation with you. Then the moment a man shows you some attention and fits your idea of attractive male, you will throw away your pets at a shelter or manufacture a reason to euthanize them. You will make Pete's homeless once more, searching for a room to rent somewhere. You are brutal and merciless when it comes to narcissistic supply and you enjoying yourself. If you have truly decided to leave Syria, it is because you are sharing the attention of Salah with family and friends. There's a stronger sense of community there because there are mainly foreigners working in Kuwait. Sure, your husband went out there too, but not for too long, and relatives didn't come over every day in big groups taking his attention away from you. Once a narcissist stops being the center of attention, he will seek out a better source of narcissistic supply. I'm not saying all this to stress you, Chantal. You are a public platform, so you will be discussed whether you like it or not. My main objection is you leaving Julia to just any uncertain predicament in a war-torn country and moving off to find new animal victims to use for as little as days, then dump all over again. Cats and other living beings are not dolls you purchase, play with, then unload at an op shop when you're done with them. At this point, I would like to raise that narcissists' approach to life or others can't be blamed purely on a traumatic past. There seems to be disagreement between psychology professionals regarding this. If you research, you will discover there are doctors who verify that some people place their wants, needs, benefits, and satisfaction above any moral code. Dr. Peter Salerno is an authority who is of this opinion. My appreciation goes out to the Breaking Free from Narcissistic Abuse podcast by Kerry McAvoy, PhD, for the information and following excerpt.
And there's this underlying belief that everybody is basically good and they want what's best for other people. And if they don't, it's because something ruptured in their development that made them defensive and self-protective. I'm sorry if people believe that, because it's dangerous to think that now, because now we have research. It's irrefutable. It's undeniable. There are certain brains that are wired in certain ways that cause harm intentionally because they perceive that they will have some sort of personal advantage or gain if they go about life that way.
I would like to highlight that I'm not being apologetic. I don't feel I owe Foodie an explanation for my content. I have no interest in shaping people's opinion about me either. I, however, want to make my values clear, so I will emphatically say that I don't wish death upon Chantal, or a decline in her already compromised health. I have a strong sense of justice, and I'm very angry about the way she has treated and continues to treat animals. I find her character and behaviour repulsive. Waiting for her to expire doesn't give me any form of pleasure, though. I object to what is going on freely on social media. When platforms such as YouTube mute comments they find slightly unacceptable, it is a bit of joke and hypocrisy, because they simultaneously allow activity that takes advantage of vulnerable individuals like animals. YouTube allows graphic and violent content toward animals. How is this relevant to Chantal, you may ask? Foodie manipulates the public by using stray and abandoned cats to tug at the heartstrings of viewers. She adapts the role of a person who goes on a quest to help or rescue an animal, and asks for public donations in doing so. Her put-on persona is contradictory to the woman she showed us when she first moved to Kuwait and got Salah to order a chicken from a processing place that slaughtered birds on the spot. They filmed the animal being slain and uploaded the video on Chantal's channel. I remember clearly that this was done as a retaliation toward audiences who were calling her an animal abuser. She was cold in her demeanour when she presented the audio-visual material. This shows a calculating, cold-hearted, disturbingly willed person. Social media needs to step up its game and start really doing something about placing barriers so that animals and children are not used as quick money-making schemes. They need to deplatform those who promote with a smile on their face violence against helpless victims like animals. It is a non-standard when you mute words like murder, then you allow the killing of animals to be broadcasted, or people to commit fraud by pretending to collect money for a charitable cause. Kuwait has the right idea as a country when it comes to false pretenses and collecting funds dishonestly. The confusing thing about Chantal and her marriage is that Salah seems to be okay with her swearing, attacking people publicly, criticizing others and farting in public as long as she wears a hijab. How can a piece of cloth be the beginning or end of all? In other words, it's all about control. It makes me surmise that both of these people are narcissists and controllers. They have a sense of ownership over those in their life. This is where I'd like to clarify that I've got no way of verifying Chantal forced Pete's to identify as trans. We can fairly conclude that she comes up with various schemes to stir interest, controversy, to attract traffic, and to make an extra buck. My feeling is that initially they thought they would milk the controversy of Pete's being transgender. Then Foodie decided to use this fallacy in her favour so that Nada would allow her to continue living with Pete's. Cracula then started regularly mocking Pete's as not being a man due to his ambiguous gender. At least James isn't homophobic and wouldn't have an issue with same-gender relationships, but as far as we know, he hasn't had any romantic attraction to men. Cracula, on the other hand, has had sexual encounters with males. You may want to revise your name-calling of Pete's, Nada, especially with your type of belly dancing and sexual partner history. I am aware Pete's is complicit in some bad things, but I like to set things right and to emphasize once more that I'm not here to mentally or emotionally taunt anybody.
Just calling facts as they are.
The funny thing with Foodie is that she struggles to understand some basic concepts. For example, she knew that she was heading into a very culture-reliant social environment in the Gulf that even required her to wear a hijab, at least according to her husband's demands. But now she's rejecting the whole notion of how important rules and traditions are in a Syrian community, and she's complaining about Salah as, quote, being culturally influenced, end quote. You said it yourself that he's conservative, Chantal. Why act surprised? He gets angry even if a strand of your hair shows. I guess I also struggle to understand her, because she said that wearing a hijab and having to mute her farts while she's online isn't her. The hijab part is a different tune to what she was singing months ago, when she said she feels comfortable hiding herself, and that this way is part of her being now. The gas passing is something outrageous, though. I would comprehend if she said she couldn't silence her freedom of speech. What I don't accept is why she has to be verbally abusive to people through the use of offensive language, and why it is part of her character to fart publicly. The words of a particular narcissistic abuse recovery psychologist come to mind. He said that narcissists expose loved ones, family, and everyone around them to their bodily excretions and other unbearable personal functions because they believe they are above others. It is sadistic gratification that people and animals are subjected to this kind of endurance. Narcissists feel superior and entitled. Let's start wrapping it up, because I've held your attention for too long today and you need a break. The moral of the story is that Foodie must control her explosive and uncontrollable, verbally abusive reactions. If people just ask something like why she needs $10,000 in donations, she starts calling them morons.
Actually, it's literally not anyone's business. Beach flower, you're like the dumbest person on the planet. The dumbest person.
Nobody has the right to ask you for a detailed report of your financial transactions. The people have every right to question you why you need $10,000, which is an extremely large sum. Perhaps if your demands weren't so over the top, and you just commenced your GoFundMe, you could have reached your necessary amount without asking for it up front. Why can't you see how you are too overwhelming for the average person? Perhaps also, if you weren't as abusive as you are, your GoFundMe wouldn't have been taken down and nobody would have reported it. Nobody asks you to send kisses, like you say, to rude members of the public, but everybody expects you to not use vulgar language whenever you get upset toward others. Setting boundaries and telling people they're inappropriate or vicious is one thing. Calling them names and making fun of specific physical attributes that they have is a whole different matter. It takes it into hypocrisy when you claim others are discriminatory toward you for your physique, then continue to mock appearances. You still haven't processed that YouTube and the internet are your only source of money. Somebody asked you if you would do voiceover work, and you straight away, flatly rejected the idea. So many people would jump at the opportunity to do something expressive and creative like that, which isn't as physically and mentally demanding as other work. I agree that there may not be as much demand or opportunity to do jobs like that, but flatly denying the suggestion shows that you have absolutely no work ethic. I suggest you also drop the manipulation. I quote you, "It's in your best interest to donate because we will have some fun beeses." The sorry thing is that you rely on viewers entirely for earning your living, and also for narcissistic supply through their attention. Stop viewing yourself as a victim because ultimately, you project that onto your behavior. Imagine hating me and I'm just ceiling, you said. Poor me mentality. You fail to understand that reactors don't despise you because you're lying down doing nothing. They dislike you because you expect to be earning $10,000 while lying down, while others work their butts off for $100.
I mean, you had the audacity to say that you would charge for the drawings you do $50 or $100,
when it takes you literally 2 minutes to make each scribble. Yes, it's an honest way to make $1, but the exaggerated importance you place upon yourself is something out of this world. And stop behaving in ways that you think you've got a right to whenever you get angry. Like No Madness Life said, Salah will never be able to see his family in Kuwait again because of your online behavior and words. You don't seem to understand that. He has been very patient with you, although I'm sure there are details you're not telling us, such as your jealousy over an apartment owner's daughter. You exploded that Salah was secretly speaking to her. He said that your mind is sick. Imagine how much more you're not telling us that has been problematic in your relationship with Salah. Drop the anger and reactivity and come to the light, Chantal. You desperately need positivity in your life. In ending my video, I will say that people genuinely care about Julia, especially after they have seen how you either dump previous pets when they no longer suit you, or you decide that they should be euthanized as a convenient option for you to jet off. You do everything on the spur of the moment, without thinking of the repercussions, no matter how serious they may be. You thought you would punish Salah for deciding to stay an extra day on his family trip by immediately booking your ticket to Canada with just any airline, not thinking about poor Julia. There are airlines, Chantal, that will allow pets in the cabin, such as Etihad. If schedules have changed, you could always get the same airline that transferred Salah and Julia to Syria from Kuwait. Then, from Kuwait, get Etihad to Canada. Your expectations are as outrageous as your impulsivity. There are disorders that make it difficult for people to manage their emotions, but you can and must learn to control yourself. Imagine having the audacity to change the plans and mind of 16 people during an extended family trip because you were more important than the whole extended family, and your partner had to be home a day earlier to take care of your every mental need. This was a family trip you decided not to be a part of. The schedule of 17 people shouldn't be dependent on a self-centered, foreign woman. Stop. Stop basing everything on your impulsivity and selfish decisions. It took me a couple of minutes to find out that Etihad allows pets in their cabin and that it flies to Lebanon, Kuwait, and Canada. It's not only about you, Chantal.